Hello and welcome to today's podcast episode. My name is Athena Bailey. I'm your host for today. I'm so excited to share with you the really juicy stuff that we have coming in for today. On today's podcast episode, I'm basically going to be doing a 2022 review, right? So I'm going to be taking you through the good decisions I made that I will be continuing in for next year, the strategies that worked, the strategies that didn't, my lessons that I definitely won't be taking into 2023. So basically, like, what worked, what didn't, what I'm moving into next year. I'm really giving you an insight in behind the scenes for how my multi-six-figure spiritual business runs, right? And how I've managed to have it this year and take pretty much 3 months off as well throughout the year. And that wasn't intentional. When I started this year, I wasn't kind of planning, I'm just going to have 3 months off. It kind of happened spontaneously throughout the year. So I'm going to talk through all of that. Overall, 2022 was a beautiful year, and I love the number 222. It really corresponds quite a lot to the divine feminine. So I was very excited going into this year. I had set up, at the end of last year, I had set up a whole manifestation journal, and I had devoted pages and pages to every area of my life. So I was really excited to manifest and bring in 2022. And for the most part, 2022 has been really incredible. My business has done really, really well. I've traveled a lot. I spent, I think, over 3 months solidly traveling this year. I got engaged. Things have been really, really beautiful this year. However, there were definitely some lessons as well. And there were some changes. I've restructured my business, some changes. So I want to talk about why I did that, why I needed to do that, and the back end of everything. So I'm basically going to go quarter by quarter, talk about the decisions I made, why I made them, and looking back whether or not that was a good decision or not. So the first quarter of 2022, I was kind of in a weird energy. I remember actually not doing much. I found myself at the beach every single day and just spending hours in the water. And I've kind of noticed that's how I am in my business, right? And I used to beat myself up around this. And also I'm a manifesting generator. So if you're a manifesting generator and listening to this, you'll probably resonate with this. But I go through phases in my business where I'm so lit up and I'm creating content, go, following the flow. And then suddenly there's this stillness. And I'm just like, I just feel like doing nothing, and I will actually take time just to do nothing and be in the space and allow. And it's basically just creating space. And I notice when I go through these phases where I allow myself to be, there's always a massive up level that comes around the corner. So I don't beat myself up for it anymore. If I'm not feeling inspired, I don't force myself to be. If it's not feeling aligned, I don't force it. I just allow it and respect that that's where I'm at. And so January was a bit like that. I spent a lot of time at the beach, and I was still seeing quite a few one-on-one clients. So that was going on behind the scenes as well. I was maintaining that. And I was working on an offering kind of behind the scenes with a friend that we were deciding we were going to collaborate on an offering. It had come through for us in October the year before, and we were really excited to launch the offering together. And it was a really beautiful, powerful, potent offering that we were focusing on launching. And I had also I was launching the first round of the ISIS portal, the second round. We were running the ISIS portal. The main thing that came from January was Feb was a bit slow, not too much happening for me. I generally find that at the start of the year, the energy is kind of slow and soft. The interesting thing for me that happened is I had a big lesson in taking action on your downloads when you receive it. And it was literally something that I was discussing with one of my clients last week who had been downloading. She's a channel as well. She was downloading an offering. And we were working on it. And then she messaged me and said, doesn't feel aligned anymore. And it's like the energy isn't there, and something else like feels more aligned and wants to come through now that I'm channeling on. I'm like, yeah, that does happen. And I'm a really big believer. My experience has given me this. When you channel on something, when something comes through for you from spirit, you need to take action on it like right away. Don't sit there and kind of think about it, go, okay, I'll sit with it for a couple of months, whatever. When you receive the program, the offering, whatever it is, like, go take action on it right away. Go for it. If you don't, if you kind of like let it sit, just don't do much with it, what ends up happening is the energy shifts, right? You are receiving that program, that offering at that time because it is in perfect alignment for you to download it and share it now. Sometimes they'll give time frames. They'll be like, yep, launch it in 2 months, or it'll be ready to come through you in a month or whatever. Sometimes, like it happened to me this year as well, like launch the program next week, right? For example. However, if you get it and you sit on it for months and months and months, and then you try and launch it, chances are it's not going to do well. And that's exactly what we had. We downloaded this amazing offering in October last year, and it felt so aligned. The energy was there, and we sat and we spent ages building out all the back end stuff. We didn't talk about it. We didn't launch it till I think like 6 months later. And at that point, it was no longer energetically in alignment, right? And whenever it very rarely happens that I'll launch an offering and it's, it's a flop or whatever. And basically, it doesn't, when I say flop, I mean we had an expectation for it and it didn't reach that level, right? Whenever that happens, it's usually because there's something energetically out of alignment when you're launching that, right? So we launched this offering and we got responses, but nowhere near to what we were expecting. And when we sat with it and tuned into it, it was completely out of alignment. And Spirit was like to me, why didn't you launch it when it came through? Why did you sit on it for 6 months? We were like, oh, fuck. So it was this huge lesson for us in when you download something, when you receive something, go, like take action straight away. And that's been a massive lesson for me this year. Like, don't sit on the stuff you receive. And a lot of the things I receive from Spirit is like for the time, like someone needs it right then and there, like the people are in the field then and there. With your offerings, when you receive them, there are people in your field who need them then and there, right? They're actually resonating with the energy of the offering right then and there. If you sit on it and you just don't put it out, those people can move out of your field and then it's just no longer in alignment anymore, right? So the big lesson was put it out as soon as you receive it. Don't sit on it. So that was the first thing that kind of was a big lesson to me in the start of the year. I also launched the Ignite Your Light course, which went really, really well. I saw that in my product suite, there was a gap for supporting people who are starting their spiritual businesses. Now, I'm a believer, and I really, truly believe this. When you first start your business, like really, like from scratch, you shouldn't hire a coach. And I know that's so controversial for me to say, but listen, here's why, right? Because when you first start your business, there are so many moving parts that you need to implement, right? You've got to create your offering, build out your social media, build the website, or at least a sales page, or something like a way to take calls. You've got so much software, messaging, like learning to do. If you're starting completely from scratch, you've got to learn about content. You've got to set up all the social media channels, right? Do all of these things. And what I was finding when I was coaching people who were just starting out their business, there was a lot of teaching happening in the sessions because I'd be like, great, so these are like the next step. And they'd be like, okay, well, I don't have a lead page. How do I create that? How do I set up Linktree in my Instagram, for example, right? And I felt like the highest value wasn't suited in spending time educating. So of course, you absolutely need business support when you're first starting out. But I recommend, like, before you look for a business coach, actually have something to sell, like a program you've put together. You have a bit of a, like, you have social media set up, for example. All of that stuff you can get from a course, right? So for example, with Ignite Your Light, it was like all of the things that someone needed to get to a six-figure business as a practitioner, right? I put it all into a program, a course, putting in the energetics of it. And it was at a much lower price point than my one-on-one coaching. And so someone can invest in that at such a lower price point with a payment plan and go through the steps of setting up the business, implementing everything, and then get the most value out of coaching. So I saw that there was a bit of a gap there, and I had people in my audience who were asking for help. They'd finished Channeling Spirit Academy, and I only really had like one-on-one support. They were saying, Athena, like, I need support with building out starting my business. I finished Channeling Spirit Academy. How do I start my business? How do I grow it successfully? And I'm like, okay, great. Everything that I have learned in my years of growing this business and supporting others to grow their business, like to get from 0 to 6 figures in this course, right? So the first round I did of that, I launched live. The feedback was awesome. The results were great. Like, 2 of the women who started that in January are now 2 of them are my private clients who are at 6 figures. Like, I'm very proud of it, what we've created. So we ran the first, and they were just starting their business. They had just graduated Channeling Spirit Academy, right? So we launched that live, ran that live, and then what we did is we set it up into an evergreen course, right? Which means you can go on my website, you can buy it. And that's worked really well, because then when we have Channeling Spirit Academy practitioners finish, which, I mean, there is business support inside of the course, but it's not as involved because not everybody wants to start a business from it, right? So Ignite Your Light, it kind of covers all bases. It's got a lot of different modules going deep into everything. So that's why we set it up. We put it into an evergreen kind of funnel to set it up so that people could buy it whenever they liked. It's really important. I believe it's really important to listen to your audience when they say, hey, I really want your support with this, or I want to learn this from you. That should be like the number one feedback that you're using to create programs and offerings, obviously alongside what Spirit brings through, right? So Ignite Your Light really came from people asking for my support with it. So we created this awesome course. I'm really happy with it. And we've actually set it up into an evergreen funnel now. So that was kind of the highlight of the first quarter. There's some good launches, one-on-one clients, one launch that wasn't so good, and it was just all kind of flowing, all kind of flowing nicely. The next quarter the next part of the year started to get a lot more intense. And this was an investment I made. It was a big investment, right? It was up there. It was more expensive than most coaches that I've paid for, but I decided to professionally film all the modules of Channeling Spirit Academy. And if you've done Channeling Spirit Academy, there's a lot of modules, right? And this took weeks of like all day filming. It was hard work. And the thing that surprised me most is I wasn't exhausted by it, because I love teaching what I do so much. Then we would film all day. I'd get up early, drive all the way, like it was half an hour drive away, did my makeup, did my hair, then we'd film all day. And because I was teaching and I was doing energy work and activations, I loved it so much. Like it was tapped into the soul fire, right? The soul fire being the energy that you can feel when you're doing the soul work that you're here to do. And it gives you energy, right? There's the momentum to it. So I was just tapping into the soul fire all day, and I had so much energy come from it. And I would get home, I wasn't tired, I wasn't exhausted. I'd be like, oh man, I'm buzzing with ideas. And I would be up, I'm not kidding you, so many nights. I was up till 2 a.m. just writing and preparing for the next day with everything that was coming through. true. And then I'd get up early and I was going, how am I going on so little sleep? Like, how am I actually thriving and surviving? I'm normally the person who is like, yeah, 10 to 12 hours a day. That's what I like. That's what feels good to me, sleep. But here I was just on so little sleep. And so I was really riding this wave of energy from teaching all my modules, and it was insane. Like, the people in the room with me, who actually, the company that I work for, it's actually a channeling who I hired. She's actually a Channeling Spirit Academy graduate, so it was really beautiful having her there. And they were just getting so many downloads and energy. They were exhausted. By the end of the day, they were like, whoa, like, you know, if you go to a spiritual course, any type of course or event, when you're receiving that much information, that much energy, it's a lot, right? So when they were receiving so much, and they were the ones who was exhausted, not me. So I was riding this wave, and it was feeling really good. And then right afterwards, sorry, so I should just cover as well here. We shot all the modules for Channeling Spirit Academy, and then it went into editing. I was really, really happy with how they all turned out. I think it's really beautiful. The reason why I decided to invest in this is like I've been teaching Channeling Spirit Academy for many years, and what I found is I was just like repeating the same teaching principles over and over again, right? I think it's good to go like a few times live because you learn new things and you really get competent in teaching it. And I just found myself repeating it over and over again, and I was like, this is not really benefiting me or the people I'm teaching. It's better to just record it professionally, have it like one and done perfectly, and then have calls specifically designed to answer any questions that arise from it, right? So we set that up. I'm really happy with how that has turned out. It was a massive investment, but it was so worth it. So that was, I'm pretty sure that was April, end of, like, start of June. Yeah, because then in May, right before May, I got the download to do one-off channeling sessions. This isn't something that I really do very often. Like, I'm pretty full with one-on-ones of my programs. I don't generally have capacity. And I just got the download to do one-off channeling sessions specifically, like to support light leaders in their business. And my God, these actually filled up so much. I was so busy. I didn't expect it to do so well, but I think we had like... From memory, I had like 30 people purchase these one-off sessions, right? So it was a lot, and I had to like cap it after that because it was too many. And I was just really busy with these sessions, but they were amazing. I was really enjoying them, and I had quite a few people sign up after that to be one-on-one clients. So that's definitely something that I recommend if you're really looking for one-on-one clients in longer-term programs or containers. Start to think about offering like one-off sessions. And my highest end clients now, that's how I've signed them. They've said, hey, I really resonate with your work, really cool to work with you. And I do sometimes offer these one-off sessions, and they go, shit, that was amazing. I got so much value. Like, I need to continue working with you. So that is one way. And some of my other one-on-one clients, like I've said before, they've come through Channeling Spirit Academy. You know, they found my psychic activation course and they worked their way through. They went Channeling Spirit Academy, Quantum Activation, Ignite Your Light, and then my one-on-one. So it's a bit of a mix, right? But that strategy worked really well, and we did really well. But I was quite busy with those one-off sessions. And then I got a big download to go to Queensland, right? So for those of you who don't know, I live in New South Wales in Sydney, Australia, and basically to go to another city just for the month. And I was like, okay, let's do it. So it was really spontaneous, and I follow this, right? Like, I follow when Spirit says go here, do this. So I followed that. I drove up. It was a 12-hour drive because I knew I needed to take my car. In the first week, I stayed in a really beautiful like suite at the Hilton Hotel. It was really beautiful, and I just felt intuitively it was like I was being up leveled and asked to like grid higher abundance levels. I'd also at that time just started working with a coach who Spirit had told me I need to sign up and work with to help me anchor in these higher abundance grids. And so I really just felt myself like going through this shifting, and I felt like I couldn't do it in sitting in my home. Like I actually had to physically leave and go here to do it. It was I spent time in the Gold Coast, which I had actually never been before, and I had a lot of fun, like just exploring and being in this new energy, and it's really, really abundant energy. So I was having a beautiful time up there, and then I found myself staying at the Krishna village, where I'd been a few times before, and I stayed there for a week and a bit, and I was just kind of traveling around the Northern Rivers, Gold Coast, even Brisbane for a bit, just having a really beautiful time. And I had a really big energetic shift, and that was kind of in the middle of the year, and it really was just like a sharp transition to the rest of the year. It was whilst I was away right towards the end of my trip. Isis came through and was like, you need to launch the next level of Isis car. This is what it's going to be like, look like. This is how many women you're going to have come through. This is the price. And to me, it felt massive, right? I was told 22 women were going to come through and given the price point, and it felt just freaking massive to me. I was like, what? That many women and that price point? There's like... that feels insane, but okay, whatever you say. And she said, you need to launch it tomorrow. And I was like, okay. And it was a variation of the Isis portal that I'd done of the year, but she wanted me to add a few more things to it. So I was like, okay, let's do it. So that night I spent time creating it, writing it, and I launched it straight away. And over the next couple of weeks, I was talking about it a lot, really focusing on the energetics of calling in the woman. And sure enough, we had 22 women come in and sign up and join that course at that price. And that was a really big launch for me, like my biggest launch to date, at that point to date. And it was such an expansive experience for me, because really when I received it, I was in a state of, no way, like, you're out of your mind, like, all right, but okay, like, let's just have some fun and go along with it, right? And so I did, and the results really blew me away. And I was again reminded I need to constantly lean in deeper with working with spirit in my business. It was a really beautiful and profound lesson. I drove back to Sydney at that point, and I even decided to work with an agency, right? So at that point, I had a lot of courses. I had the Quantum Activation, Ignite Your Light, and I realized I needed to have some sort of setup going. I had set up funnels before, but I knew that I needed some help with it. So I signed up with an agency to help me create these, like map everything together, right? Finalize all the pages, make sure everything's linked, and there are thank you pages, just all the behind the scenes. That was a really big investment, the biggest investment I made so far in my business. But now towards the end of the year, I'm almost finished working with them, and they've set up a lot of different pages for me, funnels, like put together all my content to make it make sense. So for example, if you go into my freebies now on my website, you opt in, you'll be sent the series of emails, then sold into either the Quantum Activation or Ignite Your Light, and so on, right? So they kind of helped me write it all out. It was a good experience. I don't see the need to continue with that. It was very much like a one and done. So it was a good investment. And if you're at my level in business where you have all these courses and content floating around and you're like, how do I make it work for me? And even if you're at a place where you want to invest in ads, it was beneficial. I already had one funnel that I was working with quite a bit, but they just allowed me to expand it and fine tune and all of that. So it was a good experience. So I hired this agency. I flew out to do an event with a coach that I ended up hiring, which was a really positive experience. And it was really lovely to go to an in-person event, right, after COVID. And we relaunched Channeling Spirit Academy, which I was so excited to share after after the new professional modules came out. That was really my business was doing really well at that point. Everything was going good. And I actually got burnt out. really soon afterwards. At that time, Isis car was like buzzing. I wasn't prepared for the level of woman to come in to want that. We just relaunched Channeling Spirit Academy and we changed the structure for it, right? So we changed the structure from, I think it was like a few months to a year. The feedback that I take, like the feedback my clients give me, really, it's very important to me, right? And it should be important to you. And if you don't have methods for gaining client feedback or customer feedback in your business, it's so important. After a client of mine finishes like one of my courses, we usually ask them to fill out a feedback form. It's really helpful. And yes, we ask for like, how did it benefit you? But we also ask, what could we improve, right? It's really important for you as a business owner to be collecting that stuff. You need to know what you are not doing well, right? And you need to listen. Like when a client or a customer reaches out and say, hey, I'm not happy with this isn't going well, you need to take that on board and go, where do I have a gap in my business? Something that I've noticed over my years in business, working like in my own business and hiring other coaches, is the businesses that really have a good client experience is the businesses where the client or customer feels cared for, like the owner actually cares about them. I hired a coach a couple of years ago and all of us, like, it was a mastermind, and we spoke about how we felt really uncared for, like what we wanted, our needs, we weren't checked in on, just nothing. We felt really uncared about. And it left me with this feeling of, it's really important for the people I work with to feel that I actually genuinely care about them, that I'm more than a business, right? So it's very important to me. And so you've got to be collecting this feedback from your clients, like even just sending out a feedback form to follow up and say, hey, like, how was your experience? And if you're asking for testimonials, make sure you have a place where you're asking, what could we do to improve? What could we have done better? Just get that feedback, right? So the number one feedback we were getting for Channeling Spirit Academy was, I need more time. I needed more time. I wanted more practice, right? Because we used to release like a module every single week. And then on top of that, have like practice session and coaching call like every single week. It was crazy, right? But a lot of people did get through it quite quickly and get awesome results. So we realized we actually need to spread this course out a little bit more and give a lot more. So we turned it into an 11-month course where the modules are released every 2 weeks. We still have calls or multiple calls every week, but it's kind of like optional, like they're there, right? So people can go to a coaching call or a practice session or like attend one of my activations. They're all live and they're still receiving stuff in the back end, but they know they have time to go through it, to practice, get all the practice and support they can, right? As they go through these levels. So we changed the structure based on that feedback, and it feels really good. It feels really solidified now. Just like we've got everything set up. We built the Channeling Spirit Academy website, which is all the former students, which you can go book sessions with. So it just felt like we were really solidifying the Channeling Spirit Academy energy, which felt really good. And I'm really happy with how that's going. So we did that with the relaunch. Then straight after that, I did a business photo shoot. Then I got engaged. Then we were doing the engagement photo shoot, and it was so many things at once. And it was at that point, we also decided spontaneously, hey, let's go to Europe because we're going to get married and you need to meet my family, right? It was at that point where I got burnt out because I was like doing all of these things and I couldn't handle it. So the week before we went to Europe, I had to really take a step back, like really have a look at my business and go, why am I getting burnt out? And it was very insightful for me. If you're at a place where you're overwhelmed in your business, you really need to have a look what is happening. Because I kind of felt like, yeah, okay, a lot's going on for me personally, but I have a business, like I have employees. I had multiple people who work for me. I have really good systems. And I was like, I shouldn't be getting burnt out. And one thing that I really noticed was the speed of delegation, right? So my structure originally was like I had OBM, I had VA, and then I had like contractors for different things like graphics, podcast management, support coaches. And one thing that I really noticed was like I would delegate something and it could take weeks for it to get done, which obviously like it was fine if I would plan everything out really far, but things were just really slow in the implementation. And I had my OBM on, which is online business manager, on like a package. You know, she was working, I think, 10 hours a month, which like you guys know, that's actually not that much. Like it's a few hours a week. Because for most of the year, there wasn't that much work to do. So she didn't actually need that many hours. But then when things got busier, I just noticed that things were not getting done. Things were being overlooked. Mistakes were being made. Like consistently, I wasn't being replied to. And I realized that it's really hard to run a business when a person is only like 10 hours a week in it, right? And I realized that for me to actually scale and go beyond, I needed to have someone like full time. And I really realized that the only way for me to go forward, and I tried to work it out. We tried to do different things. I really realized the only way for me to go forward is if I could pick up my phone, send a message and go, hey, we need to do this. And that person said within the hour, yep, no worries, implementing it now. Because it was literally like, I would pick up my phone and say, we need to do this. And it would be like a week later that it would get done, right? And that was just, it didn't allow me the space to expand. So I had to sit with that. And then when I got back from Europe, made the decision, let my OBM go, let my then VA go. And I hired a full-time VA, like my first full-time employee. And so far she's been working for a month now. Yeah, almost a month. And it feels really good. Like every single day there's someone messaging me going, hey Athena, here's what I'm working on today. Like anything you need help with, I'm here. And it feels really, really good. Like I feel really, really supported in a way that I hadn't before. And I'm able to just send a message and go, hey, I forgot to do this, or can you do this? And it's done like within the hour or within the day. And it's such a different energy. And I'm like, you know, I have her full time, but I don't have that much work at the moment. So it's like, it's creating this space where I'm in this energy of what else can I offload? What else can I offload? And I do have clients who are like at 6 figures and don't have VAs. And I really, really recommend it. People ask me, when should I hire a VA? And look, honestly, as soon as you find yourself doing any work you can outsource, you should hire a VA, right? It gives you opportunity to scale. Anytime you find yourself burned out, overwhelmed, or just going, I'm not feeling supported, a structuring or systemization needs to change. I have really good systems in my business. Like I know that I have great systems, right? So for me, it was definitely a structuring thing, but even hiring a VA for 2 hours a week who can suddenly take care of the stuff that is repetitive, like uploading the videos, like if you're doing videos, or uploading to multiple platforms, whatever it is, you know, replying to admin emails. That's 2 hours that you can go and spend doing a podcast, doing a live stream, right? So I'm a big believer of hiring that virtual assistant sooner than later. And you can always then go, actually, we need 3 hours, you need 5 hours, and getting someone used to a business sooner rather than later, because most people leave it to, shit, I'm burnt out and I need help now, right? Which is even like I did that this year. So we actually like really downsized. I went from having multiple people to having one person, which has been really interesting, but feels really good. Like I'm very happy with the decision so far, the support that I feel. When I went traveling in Europe, we were just so busy, right? Like it wasn't a holiday. It was see my family, see Daryl's family, go here, do this, do that. And so I really just managed to see my one-on-one clients before I left. I had actually launched the Atlantean Wealth Incubator, which was another completely channeled, downloaded program. Spirit was like, right, the Atlantis energies, this is why they're needed. This is why we need light leaders holding these codes at the moment on Earth. This is the program, right? And it was very clear it was for light leaders. It was business channeled strategic support. It was for a certain type of person. And I put it out there and it sold out really quickly. That surprised me as well. So I found myself doing a few VIP days, which were really fun. Like I got to do some in Sydney as well, which was really beautiful, getting to spend a day with my clients. And actually I'm selling out spots for it at the moment. I've only got one left actually. We've got a few people starting in February. So if you do want that support with your business, I have availability for February because I had people wanting to start this year and I was like, I can't, like, February is when it's all happening. I'm getting married in January, which I'm really excited for. So honeymoon as well in January and then starting everything in February. And so had quite a bit of time off after this burnout, really just was focused on my one-on-one clients, doing the ISIS car calls and just maintaining. I wasn't really launching. Then I got back and we ran the fire codes, which was a really beautiful experience. We also just last week, I think it was, the week before, we went to Gold Coast for an in-person event. Me and Daryl went. That was all business energetics. That was really beautiful as well. And I'm leaning into doing the Priestess Rising event, which has come through really strongly. You know, even though it's mid-December and people are like, oh, everything's shutting down. It's like, no, there's still a really strong energy. And you know, it's really interesting. Pretty much all of my clients are doing live trainings, launching something this month. Like, I think 4 of my clients are, and myself included, we're launching something next Monday, right? Which is like towards the end of December. Yet every year before that, I've been like, no, mid-December, shutting down. But there's a really strong energy this December. A lot of things are happening. So that was kind of my year, and it's still going, right? It's still happening. We've still got a couple of weeks left. I'm even this week on Friday, I'm filming content for Reels, like getting a professional person to come and film my content. I want to talk about my biggest takeaways from the year, like my biggest lessons, and what I'm going to implement for next year based on that, right? The first thing I want to say is Instagram is kind of a mixed bag. If you're doing text posts on Instagram, even Reels, the engagement is so low, right? And this is pretty much like, go to people that you followed for years and have a look at their engagement over the course of this year. It has dropped dramatically. And at first I was like, oh, it's just me. And then I had clients saying the same thing. And then it was just Instagram's algorithm really changed. So I don't think Instagram is dying, so to speak, but I don't think it's viable anymore for it to be your only content strategy, which a year ago it absolutely was. Like, I had plenty of clients who Instagram was their only content strategy, they're only building their audience strategy, and it's just not anymore. If you're only using Instagram, it's going to be really, really hard. So it really invites us, like, what are you doing next year? And that being said, I have had one of my private clients this year who did phenomenally well with Instagram. Pretty much all of my other clients, Instagram stayed pretty much the same or got lower engagement, but I had one client and she literally went from 10k followers to 50k followers this year. I think she's even like at 80 now. She was posting one reel every single day, high quality, like good content reels every single day for 6 months, right? And she went viral a few times and it did tremendously well for her. So I think if you're going to go be on Instagram, you can half-ass it. You've got to go all in. Create a reel every single day, do stories every single day, right? If you want to be on Instagram and just really, it's your main thing. Even like you're going to be seeing me, I'm doing reels more and more because I'm realizing that's that's where content is heading, right? That's where the spaces we're being called to. People are digesting content like that much more. And I love written posts, so I'm still going to continue doing them, but I'm really going to be focused on Reels more so now as well. TikTok as well, you're going to see me kind of start to edge my way into. I don't think my content is like what I post on Instagram is not suited for TikTok, so it will have to be TikTok specific content. Again, if you want TikTok, it's not something you can half-ass. Like Instagram, you used to be able to half-ass Instagram, but now it's like you've got to go all in, and same for TikTok. My biggest lesson this year, other than when you download something, you got to get on it like straight away, right? Because at the start of the year, I didn't do that, and it was a really bad launch. And then in the middle of the year, I did do that, and it was a crazy, insane, positive launch, right? So that was big lesson number 1. Big lesson number 2 is content is everything. I noticed that in about October, my business was getting stagnant, and it was on me. I was not recording podcasts. I was not putting out content. I was not making reels. I was just not showing up. I was not doing like my free events. It was 100% on me, and it created stagnancy. And now my main priority is how can I give free value, right? That's going to be something that I really take with me next year as well, is giving free value, showing up, giving free. I used to do it so much in my business, and it got me this far, and I've kind of gotten lazy with it. Because I got burnt out, I got lazy with quite a few things this year. But that's my focus at the moment. Showing up, giving free value, recording podcasts, doing events, free, right? Putting value out, because I think that's so important. And I always say to my people who are starting their businesses, you need to have bingeable content, right? And you need to have a place where people can do that. Either people can go to a free course of yours and listen to like 5 hours of your free content, or you have podcasts they can binge, or you have like an amazing TikTok channel. Whatever it is, your content needs to be bingeable, and there needs to be a lot of it they can download and build a relationship for. Like, I want to hear how you're changing lives, and people don't have to pay you for that, right? I get messages, and I used to get them all the time, but I get messages about how people, their lives have changed because they did my free training. They did this activation, right? They did my free course, and it's changed their life this way, that way, right? That's what you want. And of course, that's the type of business you want to be anyway, right? Like, you're more than a business. It's more than money. It's how many people's lives are changing. You're changing. That's what it's all about. And so my focus this month and ongoing, which I got really lazy with this year, and I definitely felt that, just the energy of my business that I normally feel, I wasn't showing up and sharing as much as I could, right? So that's going to be a big shift in the new year. And now I'm like, content, how can I create more, share more, give more? And just some once a day written content on Instagram, it's not enough. Podcasts, activations, masterclasses, reels, giving more. There's been a big change, and actually one of my private clients, like at the start of the year, I was saying to her, the coaching industry is going to go through a big shift. And because it's and I don't really think of myself as a coach. Like, obviously I'm more of a practitioner, I'm a channel, yet I do belong coaching, and I'm a trained coach, right? Like, I've literally done NLP and coaching certification. So there is an element of coaching, but I don't see myself inside of the coaching industry because my focus is on spirituality, on channeling, on all of that. However, a lot of my clients are in the coaching industry. Now, I was saying to one of my clients who was kind of like, and I've actually had 2 clients say it to me this year, saying they're not resonating with the coaching industry anymore. And right, because there is a collective consciousness around calling yourself a coach. Same way there's a collective consciousness around calling yourself a psychic. There's collective consciousnesses that create a paradigm around what it means to be a coach. And when something happens in that paradigm, we feel it, we respond to it, we affect it. Like, if you subscribe to these paradigms, you are affected by the collective consciousness, right? If you call yourself a psychic, a coach, something happens to that paradigm, you are affected by it. So I have had multiple clients this year, somewhere along the year, right? Not in recent days, say to me, I'm not resonating with coach anymore. I want to refer to myself as like mentor or as initiator, right? There's been like different words that they're using, and it's like they're creating their own paradigm about this because they're no longer resonating with the coaching industry. And actually I said to one of my clients at the start of the year, one of my like predictions is that we are soon going to see like an underbelly of the coaching industry, and there's going to be a kind of like, I don't know if you guys watch the Nexium series on Binge, or there's a podcast like A Little Bit Too Culty, which kind of goes in, and it was just this paradigm and they showed this real dark side to it, right? And I felt like that's what we were going to see in the coaching industry, and there's going to be documentaries about it eventually. Like, if you're no longer feeling the resonance of the coaching paradigm, the coaching industry, and a lot of people are, and that's okay. Like, if you want to be a coach, awesome, go for it. But if you're feeling no lie to it, listen to it, right? And I have clients who are coaches. I don't think there's anything wrong with being a coach. However, I do think that a lot of people are getting away with bad tactics and there's no accountability, right? So what I mean by that, I've had negative experiences in coaching containers. And in that coaching container I was with multiple other women who also shared that experience, that same experience. At no point we were approaching us, hey, how was your experience? What can we do better? It was just a lot of money was taken from us and we were kind of left with this bad taste in our mouth. Now, that doesn't mean my soul still didn't choose that experience. And yes, I did grow from that experience, and it was beneficial in like, absolutely, I still got so much out of it. But it doesn't change. There still should have been some, hey, how was your experience, right? And this is why I hop on about like get client feedback, customer feedback, check in, follow up, and why I'm big on having these like check-ins after a client finishes or a customer finishes. Send them a feedback form, ask them what could be improved, what could be better, how are you doing, how are you feeling? Not just like you don't hear anything and then it's done, right? So there are things that need to shift because there is no structure to coaching, to the industry. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing because we're just here to express ourselves. Yet at the same time, I think people really need to learn and like learn what they're doing wrong, right? Like we need to wrong, that's not the right word, but we need to see where we're lacking because none of us are perfect. Like we make mistakes, I make mistakes. And the way we're going to learn is by asking, hey, what could I have done better? Constructive criticism, constructive feedback. It is very, very helpful, and it allows you to grow and go, great, I'm going to fix that up so my business can become better. And I feel like the coaching paradigm, the coaching collective consciousness is going through a real shift where people are being, where if someone is not really client-centric and is more money-centric, it's no longer resonating, right? A lot of people are like, yeah, okay, but do you really care for your clients? Do you really care for your customers? And when there's a gap there, it's like it's being revealed, right? So there's a real changing, there's a real shift up. And actually this week, there's been quite a few events in the online sphere you might have been seeing and noticing that have been changing things up. I try not to get into all of that drama, into the energy of it, but I do believe that this is just the start of it, and we're going to see a lot more coming up. And if you want to be a coach, if you're really called for a coach, really important that you note for yourself and start looking at, okay, what is important for me? Where can I really show that I support my clients and make sure that I'm getting feedback from them, right? And listen, I think that's really, really important for anyone to be a successful business owner. So I think we're really going to start seeing those changes because people want value and connection from you outside just a coaching container, right? Which is another reason why the free content is so, so important. Giving value, connection, building trust outside of just a contract, right? So I think that's where we're really going to start to see changes next year, and why it's a priority for me. Give, right? Give, create the change give so much. Like, I want to be able to say, and I mean, I do say this, like, people come and say, hey, I want to have this result. I'm like, great, do this free course. So they're like, hey, I don't have money, but I really need help with this. Great, do this free course or listen to this free thing, right? And we do that pretty well at the moment, but I want to go even bigger with it. So that's a big focus for me in the coming year. Content, time freedom. I think that I was like doing too much in my business this year, so I'm really excited just to give even more over to my VA and have her set things up, take care of more things that I don't need to be doing. Time freedom is a big thing that I'm going into. And two more things that I want to discuss. The first one is the messaging. This is something that I've seen this year with my clients who are going from, they're already at like multi six figures and they're wanting to scale to the next level. At that level, they're going, oh, I have this idea to do this and I can do this and that and that. What actually I've noticed happening is that they get sucked into all these like many pathways, when what they need to do is go back to, okay, but what is the core thing that you're here for? What is that big main thing that you're here to do? And go deeper into that. Don't go off and do all these things that are kind of similar, but not it. Really tune in. What are you here for? What is your sole purpose? Can you go deeper into that and focus even more on that? And that's when I've noticed that they've had a big income jump. So coming back to your core message, I'm going to be focusing on that next year, like less kind of fluffing around and this is what I do, this is how I support people, and honing in on all of that. I was told actually by Spirit that I am launching one new thing next year, but otherwise I think for the most part you're going to see me really kind of going in deep in what I already have and focusing on that and the free content that goes with it. The last thing I want to talk about that I see for 2023 is originality for content and communities is going to do really, really well, right? So for example, creating an app, right? I have a client who is doing like text-based subscriptions. I have a client who is doing Telegram subscriptions, right? So all of these, I have another client who's setting an app up, another client who's focusing on creating a book. All of these are quite unique ways. They're moving into different ways that they can share content with their audience and connect to them. And I think that how you share your content with your audience is very, very important. And people are looking for something original, something different. So I think it's going to be very important to think outside of the box. People want live events again. They want to receive high value content in a different way than what's out there. So originality and how I show up and what I do is going to be the focus as well for me next year. And I highly recommend focusing on how you're actually showing up and sharing your content. I do have big plans for 2023 and I'm excited to really anchor in all the work that we've done this year. I'm happy overall with 2022, how it's done. It's been big. There's been big lessons. And the overall theme felt like to me like big structure, right? Like we set up and filmed the main course. We built out all these funnels. I hired the staff so that next year we can go even bigger. That's what it's felt like. So thank you so much for listening to this breakdown. I hope that it's been helpful for you to see like what actually goes behind the scenes of like my decision making and how I run my business, what's been helpful, what hasn't, kind of my takeaways. And if you have any questions, hit me up on Instagram, starseed_awakening. Sending so much love.